Hey everybody, welcome to the next webinar with Sentree Learning, part of Sentree WordPress Managed Hosting. Sorry, words are not coming out of my mouth like they would like to today. I think everything's just a little strange lately in the world, which is one of the reasons we're talking to Mike Demo today, because the world is not like we used to know it to be. And COVID-19, among other things that are happening in the United States and beyond, of course, are impacting not only how we talk to each other as human beings, but also how we do business. And so invited Mike Demo to be here with us today and talk about how do we have that communication in a COVID and post-COVID-19 world. So welcome today, Mike. It's so good to see you here. Thanks for being with us.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Of course. And with me today also from Sentree Hosting is Graham Thompson. Graham, how are you?
Hey, I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. So Graham is all the way over across the pond, as we say, over in Scotland. So experiencing a few little glitches today with his internet, so he may pop in and out. That's the magic of the internet, of course. So Mike,
Hopefully
you work with... Let's hope that. Mike, you work for both Web Ventures and BoldGrid. Just give us a little, I know you're going to have a little bit in your slides about who you are, but tell us the nutshell version of what you do and how you're connected to the WordPress community.
Yeah, definitely. So I am a developer evangelist for BoldGrid, which is a suite of WordPress plugins. So everything from page builders to SEO plugins to backup plugins. I'm also the lead handshaker, which is very hard to do in a post-COVID world. And that is my official title that HR gave me for Web Ventures, which is an investment arm of InMotion Hosting. So we've invested in a lot of different plugins. For example, at WordCamp US, we announced we acquired W3 Total Cache, WeForms, Sprout Invoices, among other ones as well. So those are kind of my two things. So hanging out with the community, with the BoldGrid people, and then talking to plugin owners on the Web Venture. And I just love open source and CMSs. I used to be on the board of Joomla as the treasurer years ago, and I just love the community. So my job is basically physical interaction normally.
Absolutely. And that's how I know you is through what I call the WordCamp circuit. I think we kind of all call it that, right? So running into you over and again at all the different WordCamps that I've been to, either with Give or with other companies that I've worked for and as on my own and speaking and that kind of thing, and got to know you through there. And so when we were starting to think of who would we like to have come to speak at our webinars, your name was one of the first ones that popped into my mind because you're so well connected to the community and you have so many good things to say. And I'm just excited to have you here today. And I know Graham's excited to meet you as well. So it's really good for you to have joined us. Thank you so much. So tell us, a little bit about what you'd like to do. And I see Carl's waving hello. So Carl's here with us on the YouTube channel. So we're streaming live right now on YouTube and Facebook. And of course, we'll have this up available afterwards on both of those channels as well. So hello, Carl. Thanks for being here. So Mike, go ahead and share with us your story, what you want to talk about today. Feel free to share your slides whenever you're ready as well. And we're just going to interject questions as we go. And if we have any questions coming in from YouTube and Facebook, we'll share those as well. The floor is yours.
Awesome. I think my slides are being shared. If you can pop them up, whoever has control.
Sure.
There we go.
There we go. Yeah. Cool. So this is how to have a human connection to your clients in a COVID-19 world, or just 2020 in general. First, a little bit about me. My name is Mike Demo. I'm an evangelist for BoldGrid and lead handshaker for Web Ventures. You can reach me at any of those emails, mikedemo@boldgrid.com or mikedemo@webventures.com, or Twitter is really easy to get a hold of me at NPMike. Questions, comments, death threats, however you want to reach me is fine, as long as we're having those connections. So let's go back to the end of last year, where you're thinking about 2020. 2019 was over, and it was New Year's Eve, and you're looking forward to 2020. And I know so many people that are like, I am so ready for 2019 to be over. Maybe you had issues with a job, or maybe it was just stressful holidays, whatever it was. You were ready for 2020 to be over. And then the most impactful event that was going to define 2020 happened. And we saw it out of nowhere. And that was, of course, the Australian wildfires. Yeah, remember those? Yeah, Mupper, that was this year. That was this year.
It's hard to believe.
Where we thought the Australian fires was going to be the event that was going to be defined 2020. But something else happened after that, and that is COVID. And then with COVID, there's been, I live up here in Minnesota, which if you follow the news, had the brutal killing of
George Floyd.
George Floyd. And it's been a really interesting time, and we've had some really good conversations around injustice and all of that. And there's a lot happening, and COVID on top of that just kind of stacks everything together. But so now we have this COVID world where we need to have social distancing, and we need to be apart, and we need to, stay at home and not really go anywhere. And it's not easy. I mean, I went from traveling 150 days, 160 days a year to nothing. I haven't been home this long in 5 years. I don't think my marriage can take it. I mean, seriously, this is not what we signed up for. And you have to wear a mask everywhere, and then some states you don't need to wear a mask, and then other states, the virus just ignores those states apparently. And whatever it is, it's just it's not a good situation, and it's really hard for businesses to stay connected, because at the end of the day, people don't buy based on features. They don't buy based on bullet points on a graph, or whatever statistics or uptime or whatever your service level agreements. People don't buy on that. People don't buy any of those reasons. They buy on emotion and justify it with logic. I don't care what you're selling. They buy an emotion and justify with logic. And the problem with this is it's really hard to make a human connection in this world where all we have is a screen, and we need to try to reach out and touch someone through the interwebs. And even though we're like, oh, the internet's the best thing ever, we are taking for granted how much human connection we had. Think back a year ago, how many times you interacted with another fellow human being. And I know I talk to people saying, I'm an introvert, I love this. There's a big difference between choosing to stay at home and having to stay at home. And there are some people that love this COVID, staying at home, whatever. But overall, even those people are like, I still miss things. I still miss going out to a museum or to a park, or swimming, or whatever it happens to be. So now we're in this world where we can't have a human connection. So how can you have a connection with people? How do you have a real human connection in this new era? And I don't think this is going to change. I think COVID is just the start. There's going to be new things that happen in the future. There's going to be new diseases, new challenges. Yeah, COVID-19 is unprecedented, but I don't think it's going to, be the first time we have something like this. Hopefully it doesn't happen again in a while, but definitely in our lifetime, there's going to be other challenges that are going to make it hard to have those human connections. So how do you show authenticity?
So this slide in particular makes me think about the fact that handshaking is probably going to be something that we don't do a whole lot of going forward. I know your title is the head handshaker. How did you say it? The
lead handshaker.
Lead handshaker.
I got 1,000 business cards with that on it. Yeah.
I wrote a book 2 years ago called Good Firm Handshake and Other Essential Business Tips. That title is not helping me anymore either. So I'm really anxious to hear what else you have to say following this slide.
Yeah, where handshakes are probably gone. I think the U.S. is starting to get over the stigma of wearing a mask, because in a lot of Asian countries, wearing a mask in public is very normal, and it hasn't been normal in the U.S. Now that's starting to get more normalized. I think there's going to be a lot of different changes, with also distance and, personal space and things. But yeah, that's true. I think handshakes are kind of gone. People always say like the fist bump or the elbow tap, but how do you have those human connections? So what you can do is, if it's a physical event, this is what I do. This is what I get paid to do. I get paid to take people out to dinner. Literally, that's my job. That people might say I do other things, but really at the end of the day, my job is hanging out with people and, going to movies and theme parks and tiki bars and hanging out during the lunch hour at a word camp, or a conference. And this is the last time I was together with WordPress people right after WordCamp Miami. And we took the train down to Fort Lauderdale, and we went to the Mai Kai Tiki bar and restaurant. And it's the last time I hung out physically with WordPress people. So if you can't do this, how do you replace that?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you can send an email, you know. There's always the joke. I saw somebody make a joke online that said, what does GDPR and COVID-19 have in common? Every company is going to send you an email. And that is kind of true, right? Every time when GDPR was happening, companies you didn't even know you were still on their lists are sending you emails about, well, here's how we're handling your privacy, and we care about you, and blah blah blah. And you're like, oh, thanks for reminding me to unsubscribe from you. But and then COVID-19 hit, and they're like, here's how we're handling COVID-19, and I'm like, you're Audible. What? You're Audible.com. Why do I care? You know,
Yeah.
if it's a local restaurant or a physical store. But to be fair, there are challenges that every business has had to face with COVID-19. But they've sent out these very cold, just mass emails. And to everyone saying, oh, if they're a restaurant, we have takeout, and we're going to make our employees wash their hands every 20 minutes, and we're going to make sure that we follow good proper hygiene. Makes you wonder what they were doing before at that restaurant, but now they're good. But it's all of these just basic cold reach outs. And yeah, you can send out a personal email to somebody, but I still feel like it doesn't have as much of an impact as having a real connection. And I'll talk about some ways to have a real connection in a minute. And when I say real connection, I mean anything that generates emotion. So for example, Michelle, we did some escape rooms with a group of people in the community in 3 different times. And that generated emotions, sometimes negative emotions of frustration and sometimes happy emotions when we solved the escape room. But that was a real connection. Now, that was a small group of just 6 other people, but things like that do make a difference. So you can send in a mass email. I don't think it's that helpful. It's probably a good thing if you have a lot of public facing stuff, just to say, here's our general COVID-19 practice and how it's affecting us. But what else can you do? Well, you can call people. You can make a list of your top clients and the top people you want to connect with and pick up the phone. This is more intimate and works as well, too. Being able to actually have a physical conversation with somebody makes a difference, and being able to hear their voice and to have a conversation that is not sales related. All of these activities shouldn't be sales related, period. You shouldn't be like, hey, I just wanted to make sure you're okay. How's your family doing? And we have this awesome sale on our foot cream. Do you want some foot cream? No, that's not what you want to do. You want to actually connect them on a personal level, because again, people buy an emotion. I used to sell timeshare. People hate timeshare salespeople. I was the top timeshare salesperson for a company in the country. I left it after a year because it was not a fun job, but I was very, very good at it, and I made a lot of money. And it was all about emotion. And emotion can go both ways. People buy an emotion and they make decisions. And it's all about the experience that they'll get if they buy our product. It's not about you'll save this much money, blah, blah, blah. It's like, oh, you'll be able to take your kids on that trip that you've been saying you're going to take them on for the last 5 years. And this will force you to do it and things like that. So phone is another good option as well. You can do webinars kind of like this. You can do online events. So online events have a double-edged sword right now, because I feel like everybody and their mother has an online networking, happy hour, social event, conference, whatever the case. And quite frankly, I would not get any work done if all I was doing was going to digital events in this COVID, because it's gone from like this many digital events to like this many. And, I get an invite to a new happy hour, to a new Q&A or roundtable every single day. And it's getting lost in the noise. So you can do these things if you have good content to share, such as this. If it's a real content and it's helpful, it's not salesy, by all means do it. But don't have it be the main relationship builder for your business, because at the end of the day, you need to build that relationship. And how do you do that? My favorite way is mail. Physical, old school mail. Mailing stuff works better than anything else you can imagine. For example, a whole wall of these web venture boxes that have little gifts in them. And, and each box costs me $22, and I send these to the people that we need to connect with. People love these things. They have a view. I'll show you some of the stuff it has later, but it has some candy that is custom branded and some other things. And people love mail. And I don't mean letters. I mean packages, lumpy mail. If the mail is lumpy, people get excited. Even if you are in a business, and here's the best tip to get a hold of any president or CEO in any organization: send them a box. Because secretaries open letters, they do not open packages, because packages are like gifts. They're like fun, and the owner gets upset if they don't get the fun of opening a present. It's the same reason why we wrap our gifts on the holidays.
Right.
You should have seen how excited Michelle was to open her package from us.
That's true.
People like lumpy mail. So whatever you send, make it lumpy. Make it not be a letter in most cases. So what do you send? Well, embrace your weirdness. I think the weirder stuff you can send, the better. And it's going to give you better social interaction. It's going to give you shares. But it also makes sense from a statistic point of view. But we'll get to that in a second. Here's just a sample of some of the stuff I sent out. In the upper left, I sent the co-owner Josh of Caldera Forums a custom stuffed animal of his mascot, that showed up at his house. The one in the middle is I sent Michelle right here a mug that said Michelle's work from home mug with a little note. Yeah. Upper right, we have custom Viewmasters with our pitch decks that we send in these boxes of why people should work with us at Web Ventures. We don't send them a brochure. We send them a Viewmaster slide of our pitch book, along with some candy. The bottom left, I did this a lot this month. I sent between 20 to 100 pounds of pasta to different people in the WordPress community, and the social interaction is crazy. And here's the stuff. This stuff's not expensive. The pasta thing was $19 to send 100 pounds of pasta if you know how to find it. And having a funny note with it, and having send more pasta than their kids weigh is just funny. And funny, weird stuff works. Pinatas, you can send pinatas of people or mascots for only like $50 on companies like pinatas.com. Weird stuff works. Marketing stuff doesn't. You need to make it feel unique and apply to them. When you do your internet stalking, it's always good to do a little internet stalking before you reach out to somebody. You find out what works for them. Michelle is crazy about coffee mugs, and she has her podcast, so I sent her a mug. Josh Alcadera really loves his mascot, so had that commission. Find out what they like. If they're a fan of a certain celebrity, maybe buy them a note and a shout out on Cameo or an autograph. And at the end of the day, people think like, oh, there's so much money, I can't afford any of this, but it makes fiscal sense.
Before you move, before you move to that next one, that's okay. You can stay where you are. But you were talking earlier about that people respond emotionally, and when I got that mug in the mail, I literally cried. Like, we were halfway through, or maybe even more than halfway through the stay-at-home order here in New York, and it was like somebody sees me, and not only do they see me, but somebody I know, somebody who I admire in the community, which was you, and that you know me enough to know that I'm all about the coffee, the mug. It was my work at home mug, and the thing that's right underneath where it says Michelle's work at home mug is like, tough times don't last, tough people do. And I was like, I'm tough, and I'm like mopping the tears away kind of thing. But it completely hit me in the feels. I took pictures of it, I tweeted it, I posted it on Facebook, and I was 100% touched about it, and it worked.
Yeah. And here's the thing. That thing with shipping costs under $25.
That's phenomenal.
For me to have made and customized and everything. And the bottom right is I sometimes send care packages, with cookies and edibles. Not those edibles like food, like not like CDC, not like marijuana or anything.
Oh, that's good to know.
I'm not that exciting, if you know me.
And you did say it was, under $25, so we get it.
That's true. Like there was one of our leads that we had, and they were really into nature, so I adopted a penguin at their local zoo, and the zoo sent them a little gift package. Cool. Things like that. And it was over actually in the UK, so I had to research and find the right zoo so that it meant something to them.
Creativity matters for sure.
Yeah, people remember experiences and talk about them whenever you can give an experiential gift. So even if it's as simple as a gift card, because you're like, I'm not that creative. Well, send a gift card to Starbucks or something, or to dinner, because when they get that gift card from you for, let's say, Olive Garden. Now, right now, these are probably not the best ideas because dining's kind of iffy right now. But let's say dining opens back up everywhere. And let's say I give you a $50 gift card to Olive Garden. That's going to sit in your wallet, and you're going to remember me until you spend it. And then when you're at the Olive Garden, you're going to remember me through the whole meal. And then when you take it out to pay, you're going to remember me then. And maybe talk about me to the people that you're with. And again, depending on what your business is, let's say you're a realtor, maybe your friends that you're having dinner with, they need to get a house sold or bought, and people buy on emotion, and experiences generate emotion. Marketing stuff does not. So statistically, it also makes sense. You are 5 times more likely to close a deal through an existing relationship. According to Marketing Matrix, Bain & Company says it costs 7 times more to land a new client than to sell an existing one. And Nielsen says clients who are referred by a friend are 4 times more likely to buy from you. So when you think about this, you need to think about your referral acquisition cost. You need to think about how much is the average lifetime value of a client, and then how then you can spend up to that amount once you figure out the cost of doing the service, to try to service your existing customers. Because by servicing your existing customers and to make them feel heard, appreciated, and seen, you're going to get those referrals back 10 times over without even asking for them. It's going to be cheaper than Facebook ads or Google PPC or any of that stuff. Because if you just reach out and you make that connection, for example, Publish Press, Steve Burge, they just reached 1,000 active customers. Every customer, they adopted a penguin, and every customer's name has sent them a stuffed penguin to all 1,000 of their customers.
Wow.
Now, a lot of people might think, well, that's really expensive for a plugin that costs $49 a year. Yeah, but think about what's that building and the long-term impact of that. And that's what you got to think about is, everyone always talks about their customer acquisition cost. I want you to think about your referral acquisition cost, because making one person feel so special and heard and seen might get you 5 clients, 10 clients. I know people that have sent their top customers a $1,500 big screen TV for no reason, just because they were a top customer. And for years afterwards, the TV gets brought up in conversations at conferences and events and all of these different things. And so that's what you really kind of want to think about.
And not only is it those referrals, but it's also the fact that they're going to pay for year 2 and year 3 and year 4, because they become loyal customers and allegiant customers as well. So
exactly, they're not going to leave you because they're not going to see you as a commodity, because let's be honest, a lot of businesses are commodities. Hosting is a commodity. You can find hosting anywhere, but there's the human factor is what makes a business unique versus somebody else. These are some of the tools I use. Again, these are some options. I'm a big fan of a book called the Dream 100 by Dana Derricks. The book you can get at dream100book.com. Just a warning on that website. The book is free, but you will get upsells because that's how he makes his money. You can say no to them, but just be aware. I've actually joined his mastermind group, and it's helped me so much. I use TouchNote, which is just a little app on your phone that allows you to send a card to somebody, for just for less than $1. Send out cards is really nice because you can send gifts with the cards, and it's very, very affordable. They ship internationally, I
use them.
Yeah,
I use send cards. Yeah.
Yep. And you can program in anniversaries, holidays, whatever you want. We sent out a postcard to all of our leads just when COVID was happening, and on one side said 6 feet apart and we're thinking about you, and that was it. Hallmark e-cards, if you're trying to be really affordable, that's $5 a month, and you can have custom e-cards sent to people. Client Giant is something I really, really like. what you do is they have a plan for $10 a month, $100 a month, and $200 a month, and you subscribe your clients to whatever plan makes sense based on your level, and they will do random reach outs on your behalf throughout the year. So, for example, in the spring, they sent out all organic spring cleaning household materials. In the summer, they're going to send out sunscreen and sun balm. At the higher plans, they'll reach out and say, hey, we bought you some concert tickets for your favorite band. We'd like to set that up for you. And it's just turnkey. Your mug, Michelle, came from Client Gen.
Oh, cool.
So, pasta drop, if you want to be funny, although they're ending it this week. This is the last week you can do a pasta drop. $20 to send a random amount of pasta to an unsuspecting friend. And it is so funny. And it works. It works. Michelle, I'm sure you've seen the stuff by Jesse and Adam just in the past week with the huge bags of pasta that people have been. Budsies is also good if you want a custom stuffed animal of a pet or a character or like a mascot or something. These are just some of them. I don't have an affiliate relationship with any of the above, but these are the tools that I myself use because I am a fan of these programs, but I'm also a bigger fan of being lazy. So the more I can automate my thoughtfulness, the better. But at the end of the day, I'm still going to get the call. I'm still going to get the experience, and people are going to remember me first for the experience, and then second for the business, which is what you want to be known for. You want to be known as a person first, and then your product second. So.
And if I could just interject too, that Budsies one reminder that WAPU is open source. So if you have a custom WAPU for your company, you could have Budsies make your WAPU logo mascot into something that you could send out too. That'd be pretty cool.
Yep, and you can do pets, for example, like your co-host just got a new dog. If I had a photo of that, I could turn it into a custom stuffed animal and be on his doorstep in 2 weeks.
Graham, you could have an Aslan.
Yeah, I could have them for each dog. That would be awesome.
Yeah, for sure.
So, and you just want to think of weird stuff, and it doesn't even have to be big. Like, it can be action. I know people that send action figures. And they're like, and the note's like, I'm sure you're wondering why I sent you a WWE action figure. Well, when I was a kid, I was really into wrestling. I know, cliche. And then you just tie it to a story. And then, and here's the best part about sending mail. By sending mail, it gives you permission to call them and to follow up. Hey, I sent you a package. Did you get it? Oh, I sent you something. Did you get it? If you don't have their address, send them an email. Hey, I have a gift for you. What's your mailing address? No one will ever not give you their mailing address if they know there's a present coming.
Right.
So,
I was just thinking too. You mentioned action figures. I was thinking about bobbleheads and Funko Pops. You could actually get customized to look like the person. So those are another couple ideas that could be fun.
Yeah, I mean, the list is literally endless. And
of course,
what I try to do is I try to mix it up so that like not everybody gets a pasta drop or not everybody gets, a mug, so that especially because I deal in the same industry niche. I don't want social being filled up with all the same thing. So every month, we personally set aside about $150 for what we call surprise and delight. And we'll just do different weird things. Sometimes they're big gestures, like big spa gift baskets. Sometimes they're small things like cards. But that's how we are keeping those connections alive for us. So
surprise and delight. I like that. I have to remember that. That's really cool.
So if anyone has any questions or if in the chat or anything, that's kind of the main part of the program that I have prepared.
Yeah, so if you're out there listening and you want to send us some questions, you can post those on our Facebook Live or our YouTube Live. We're happy to answer those. And we probably have a few questions here just amongst the three of us too. What do you see as... Let me take it a different direction real quick. So we're doing all of these online camps and conferences now. So for example, WordCamp Kent was online, WordCamp Denver is coming up a week from Friday. That's online, WordCamp US, etc. If you are, let's say, a sponsor, what's a good way to, you used to give away swag at a camp. So what's a good way to kind of do virtual swag? What do you think about ways to reach out to the general public that way as far as how to, put something in people's hands that they're going to know about without those, you can't give away 1,000 things with shipping costs, etc. What's a good idea for that?
Yeah, the virtual events are hard for sponsors. We've sponsored a few of them. Things that have value are good, like ebooks are decent. People like Zoom backgrounds for some reason. I don't understand it, but people like Zoom backgrounds. That's kind of fun, especially if they have a humor aspect behind it. But you can still give out, different things. For example, we partnered with Post Status Pro at the WP Feedback Summit and at the Web Venture booth, right? Yeah. At the Web Venture booth, anyone that signed up got a free 3-month membership to Post Status Pro. I know that Yoast SEO, excuse me.
Okay.
Geez. I know that Yoast SEO at WordCamp Europe, if anyone signed up for their mailing list, they donated $1 to Big Orange Heart, which is
nice.
a WordPress-focused open source foundation. We at Bold Grid gave out copies of Pandemic the board game, digital versions of it, for Mac, PC, or your phone, because I thought that was funny.
I spun that wheel so many times and I never won that one.
I only had like 20 to give away, so.
My thing is, if somebody won it, I'll play with you. Just let me know how.
The odds were not in your favor, but that game wasn't expensive. It was like $7 each copy, and
nice.
We just sent them a gift code on Steam. So we also gave out. We also have done ebooks and things. But you can still send out physical things too. Like you could say, it's not that expensive to mass post postcards. So if you had a list of 500 people, you could send a basic postcard through something like Send Out Cards for under $300. So you do have ways to do that. Now you do have to get people to give you your addresses, things like that. So, but like SiteGround, they give out socks, at their booth, and they ship those. So you just kind of got a budget to see what makes sense and play with it. But you want it to have value, because at the end of the day, nobody gives a hoot about 20% off hosting or half off this plugin, because either they don't need that plugin, because there was a statistic that if you look at the whole market, 2.5% of all people at any time is looking for your product or service. So if you look at the whole world, only 2.5 people out of every 100 will need your thing at that moment in time. So how do you help those odds in your favor? By having people remember you so that they can recommend you to friends, or that they'll remember you in the future. And, discount codes and digital products and things that, hey, you won free hosting, but most people aren't going to use that unless they really need hosting, or they're so price conscious that they're willing to drop their current host to save 12 months of $20 a month or whatever they have to be paying. So,
you made me think of something. I just lost it just as quickly as that, but we do have a question from Carl, and he wants to know if you're going to post the slides, and that there are some you have some great resources.
I've just answered that.
That's okay, but we're answering it now live on the show, so it'll be part of the recording. And you did share the slides with me. I have the link. Are you okay if I put those in the post online so people can get them?
That's the public link, so you can share that, tweet it, put it on the replay description, whatever.
Fantastic. So yes, we will definitely have those available to anybody who's interested, and we'll put them in the YouTube description, etc. So you'll have access to all the slides. Thank you. That's awesome. So those are great advice. That's great advice about how to do some digital marketing. And I was thinking too, one of the things that I love to pick up at WordCamps are stickers. So like I sticker up my laptop like crazy. I just sent Graham a whole bunch of stickers for his laptop because he had a brand new laptop and needed stickers. So I shipped those over to Scotland for him. But that's not something that would be too expensive either. I know yours could be a little more expensive because it's an envelope versus a postcard, but realistically, that's not too expensive either to drop some stickers in an envelope, maybe a postcard in with them in the envelope, and ship those off too. So that's something that could be a cost-effective way to do sponsorship.
Yeah, I have seen people do digital stickers too that they could print out on their own sticker paper, or they've done like digital coloring sheets and coloring books and things like that as well. Activities. So I've seen that as swag too.
Yeah, I think WordCamp Europe actually had a virtual swag store where you could download things to get printed on a t-shirt, or take to someplace like Zazzle and have your t-shirt made, things like that. And they even had a whole bunch of stuff. I'm not not a video gamer, so I don't understand the whole Nintendo Switch thing, but they had people designing WordCamp stuff for their Animal Crossing characters, outfits and things like that. So even that's something that's a good way to engage with people for very little investment, I guess is a good way to put it.
I literally put the sticker one of the stickers that you got me. I've not put all of them on yet, but I literally did that earlier today, and I was like so chuffed with myself. And it was that human connection. Just instead of it being some random sticker, it was the Sentree customized Wapoo, and it made me feel great. And I thought, oh, I wish I had more of these, and I could stick them everywhere.
I'll send you more.
Thanks. I appreciate that.
I designed that Wapoo. I'm pretty proud of him.
I mean, but it does work, right? So, like, I would remember I was with Josh Pollock of Caldera Forums, and we went to Disneyland because I love Disney, and him and I were going to a dessert party because I'm not only like Disney, I like exclusive experiences. So we paid for the VIP fireworks viewing. And one of the employees was like, "Oh, that's a cool logo," and it was the Caldera logo. And he's like, "Oh, it's my business." He's like, "Oh, I really love that." He's like, "Do you want a sticker?" And the guy's like, "Yeah." So he gave him a bunch of stickers. I went there a year later, and I did that same experience with my wife, and he remembered me. That cast member remembered
Wow.
me because of that sticker, yeah, definitely. And I did, cool. Yeah. So I am gonna put up one more slide that I forgot.
Sure.
I mean, well, that's one like an added benefit of making that emotional connection, isn't it? Because they say that you remember things by making an emotional connection.
Yep.
So that's another benefit of doing something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And the last slide was, at the end of the day, you want to be genuine. You want to be who you are. If you follow my Twitter, you probably notice I got a rainbow flag because I'm part of the LGBT community, and that's who I am. But you don't want to fake stuff. You don't want to feel unauthentic. We've seen a lot of like social posts around different political things or different events that have happened, especially with George Floyd. And what's worse is a lot of these companies are coming off as unauthentic and they don't care. And at the end of the day, you got to be true to your brand, be true to you. And, when you make these connections, they got to feel real and not forced. So that's, the main thing to remember. So
absolutely. Authenticity is so important because people know when you're just paying them lip service. Absolutely. You can tell when somebody's authentic and when they're not. Absolutely. Can I impose on you for a second, Mike? So here's a little story for you. So with Sentree hosting, our motif is castles and medieval times because we are all about protection and protecting your site and keeping things as secure as possible. So our Wapoo has a sword. And you have a story about a sword that has a lot to do with human connection. So could you tell us that story? Because I love that story. You told it on the podcast when you were with me on my podcast, and I just absolutely adore that story. So, you even have it with you to show. Awesome.
Of course.
Tell us the story.
So this sword I got on my second WordCamp that I've ever been to. So if you don't know, your second WordCamp, they give you a sword. No, that's not true.
I never got my sword.
No, so I remember I was there, and it was Baltimore, Maryland. And if you know me, I am an experiential person. I will have a show, a concert, a museum, a zoo, a park, a restaurant. I'll have plans. So there is not a WordCamp that I go into that I don't have a plan. And usually it's people with. So we ended up hanging out with GoDaddy and SiteLock. We ended up going to medieval times. And, GoDaddy decided to buy the tickets. SiteLock decided to buy the Uber. BoldGrid paid for everyone to get knighted. So that's what we did. And then, so I was there on my second WordCamp in Baltimore at medieval times. And we still talk about it to this day, the people that were on this, but I'll talk about how it connects in a little bit in a second. But when they were checking out, they're like, "Do you want to keep the sword that you're knighted with?" I'm like, "I have to fly." And they're like, "We ship." And I'm like, "Great." So this is how I have this sword. Now, the side effect of this is all your coworkers think that you expense reported a sword. I did not. This was paid with my money. But of course, that's not the story that goes around the water cooler. So to this day, people think that I put Bold Grid bought me a sword, but no, they did not buy me a sword. But here's the thing: is that night was great. We went to the Museum of Torture. We got knighted, and it was like, imagine a big line of kids getting knighted by the king and a bunch of just geeky WordPress people, and we all were like knighted for different things. Like Adam Warner was knighted for the love of family, and I was knighted for the love of open source. And then one of the GoDaddy people was ignited for the love of expense reports, and I'm not making that up. It was just a really, really fun experience. And whenever I look at this, I think of that. But then we were in the black and white section. So then, we called our night the Zebra Night, and we started hashtagging Zebra Night, blah, blah, blah. Well, here's the best part of that. To this day, about once every year, someone at Medieval Times will tag us all and say, and with a little video of the black and white knight getting ready to avenge his loss when we were there. And they've tweeted at us probably 6 times since that happened years ago. And every time they do that, it draws up memories, and we talk about it. And then we actually have all looked like we've started planning our next trip to Medieval Times. So again, it's all about the human connection. And this sword is just a piece of that. Now, Mrs. Demo, my wife, did not appreciate the sword, but we still have it. And there we go. So that's the story of the sword. So
just tell her you'll vanquish all of her enemies if she ever develops any. She's too nice to have actual enemies, but it's a thought.
Oh, she wanted a kayak. And her birthday is next week. So I bought her a tandem inflatable kayak that fits in our smart car, which obviously, Graham, it's not a big surprise to you in Europe because smart cars are everywhere. In the US, they're far more rare. So people laugh at me because it's a tiny little.
That's so awesome. I love that story.
Yeah, I love the story of the sword. To me, that sums up a lot about what the community is and how the human connection in just specifically the WordPress community really works. But that doesn't have to just be within the WordPress community. That can be with you and your customers and clients as well, as you've demonstrated through your slideshow today. It really is about that human connection. It's okay. We all have a lot of chats on our websites where people can chat, and a lot of times they're interacting with a bot. Obviously, you can't necessarily on a small company have that staffed 24/7. But when you can have somebody live answering that chat, it's a much better experience for other people because you're again making that connection, referring to people by name, responding in a human way that isn't obviously programmed. There's lots of little ways that you can really make a difference. With as far as answering actual phones, talking to real people, replying to emails in a human way. Like you said, there's just a lot that you can do to really make those connections work.
Yeah, definitely. And like live chat, set expectations. If you're going to be staffed certain hours, make that aware. And especially when you talk to support, like support can do so much better to try to make an experience. As I used to be a training manager, I used to be a training supervisor at Disney World. And we would always tell people, like, if something goes wrong, fix the result, not the issue. So if something happened that caused them to lose time, make up that time. But so many times you talk to companies or plugins or hosting companies that are like, oh, it's a conflict with the plugin, with this other plugin, not my fault, go talk to them. And that doesn't make anyone feel good. It makes them feel like you don't care, versus those companies that take ownership and say, hey, this might be technically out of scope, but I'm with you. Let's figure out how we can get this solved. And even just little things like in the chats, like adding just animated GIFs and things, just goes a long way to make stuff humanized, versus just, even if it is live, those canned responses can just come off as inauthentic too.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Now, you talked about even like just the tchotchkes and things that we get. Sometimes I think companies that I've worked with in the past, when I was doing freelance marketing, for example, felt that every giveaway that they did had to be somehow related to their business. So if they were a chiropractor, it had to be something that had to do with the human body, and maybe it was a pen that looked like a spine or stupid things like that. But sitting right here on my desk all the time is my Bold Grid Tide pen. And your Tide pen doesn't necessarily have anything to do with Bold Grid, except that now okay, they're in all my drawers at home and here because I go to so many camps, and I might have picked up 5 or 6 over the last couple of years. But everywhere I look, I'm reminded of BoldGrid, and whenever I think of BoldGrid, I think of my demo.
Yeah,
Because
we've given
that's how it
out
works.
over 20,000 of those Tide pens. And every once in a while, every camp, there's always that one expert marketer comes up to you. This has nothing to do with your business. Bah, 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 bah. And I'm like, okay, then don't take one. Well, I still want one. Correct. But here's the thing: is we now own the Tide pen market in our niche. No one can do a Tide pen without having it feel like they're ripping us off. And we don't
Right.
own Tide. We just is what we do. And yeah, it's kind of expensive. It's more expensive than a pen, but it works. It's useful. It sticks with people, and it's not going to get thrown in the garbage. In motion hosting, we give out Rubik's cubes at WordCamp US, and people love those things. And Rubik's cubes have nothing to do with hosting. So we always find different things to try to make people find it useful and not crap. Because what I hate about swag is that people are fighting to save pennies so much that they buy the cheap version, or they buy just crap that people will take but never use. Like what's the point? Like, here's a lanyard. How many lanyards does the average person need? Not many. Or here's a junky pen. Now, when you get those companies that spend a little bit more on swag that maybe costs them more, well, it gets saved and it gets used and then it gets seen, because stuff getting thrown out at the end of the day doesn't do anyone any favors. So.
Well, here's the other thing. So, like, I collect swag at every camp I go to. I only take the things that I actually want to use, or that I know that one of my coworkers might enjoy. But I don't tweet every time I write with a pen that has a logo or a name on it. I don't tweet every time I use, a scratch pad that has a logo or a name across the top. But I have to tell you, almost every time I've used that that BoldGrid Tide pen, I tweet about the fact that you saved my butt and my clothes one more time, and it's out there, and I'm tagging you in it, and there you guys are getting that advertising.
Every week I get somebody that tags me due to the BoldGrid Tide plan. I've had people tweet me, "Thanks BoldGrid, got the blood out," to jokes when Tide Pods were popular to eat, being like, should I eat this as well? And I'm like, no, you shouldn't. You don't eat soap. Don't inject soap either. But
here's your new tagline for the BoldGrid Tide pen: is like, we'll help you get the blood out, but we won't help you hide the bodies. Okay, maybe not. Graham, I interrupted you. You looked like you were going to say something.
Sorry, no, I was just readjusting myself in my chair.
Okay.
I was going to say, just to throw a bit of a curveball to Mike. If you're a smaller company, I mean, all of these ideas are fantastic, but if you're somebody that's starting out, or you're a smaller company, you're trying to justify to your boss some of these costs, how would you go about doing that?
Sure. So, you got to start, if you don't have a CRM, get a CRM, and there's lots of free ones out there, but I would not put it on your WordPress site, even though there are CRMs for WordPress. Get like HubSpot or, Zoho or whatever you want. Get a CRM to start tracking every interaction you have with, your customers and your clients. And you need to look at where you're spending money already, because people are very easy and willing to spend money on marketing if it can prove an ROI. But it's very easy to do that in a traditional ad campaign, right? Let's say you're doing a Facebook ad campaign. You're like, okay, we spent $1,000 on Facebook ads. We got this many clicks, and then we got this many sales. So it was worth it. I'm not saying Facebook ads are bad, but I would personally rather spend that $1,000 on your existing customers. And you got to start small. You have to, I would look at your customers and identify maybe who the top 5 customers are. Who are the top 5 customers that give you the most revenue, or the top 10, and get a small budget for them, and track their referrals, track how their accounts are after 6 months, track the social interactions. And if you can find small wins, then you can slowly ramp up your budget and interaction. You don't have to spend hundreds or even thousands of dollars on this. It can be as cheap as an e-card to start, and then you kind of scale up from there. Although e-cards don't get the open rates as well as physical mail, but yeah.
For sure. That's a great question. That's awesome. Well, I don't have any more questions. Graham, do you have any more questions for Mike?
I think I'm good for now.
Mike, do you have anything else you'd like to share before we sign off for the day?
Well, if you want to follow me on Twitter, you can follow me at mpmike, or webventures.com or boldgrid.com. Thanks.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for being with us and sharing all these great ideas. Really appreciate them. We're going to post all of this, of course, across our social media. Visit sentreecares.org if you want to find the post itself that has all of these great links in it. But again, we'll be putting that all out on our Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn accounts as well. So thank you so much for being with us today. We really appreciate your time and all the great ideas that you've shared.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. We'll see everybody next month when we're going to be talking to Chris Badgett from Lifter LMS and talking about putting together learning management systems on your website. So until then, we'll see you all later. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Mike.